What's up? Hey everyone, welcome to Athens Women's Football Summit. My name is Johnny Collins. I am here in South Korea. It's almost midnight and I'm ready to party. I am like so tired of COVID-19. I'm so tired of quarantine. I've had many friends of mine get quarantined or get COVID-19. A few older people have passed away, unfortunately. It's such a dire time in, I guess, in humanity right now. It's extremely frustrating as a coach, not being able to coach, not being able to do things, not being able to be in Athens with all of you. But it's like really refreshing the past week just to hear all the stories. And if you haven't listened or seen other other of the webinars, please go back and watch. It's been absolutely amazing. It's really insightful, the people that have been on this platform. And I really want to shout out to Agisilaos and Marios for having the vision to say, hey, we want to really create something. We want to create a platform for women from the top down, all the way from being an executive to grassroots level, to give opportunities for women in all things, whether it's journalism, whether it's coaching, whether it's in the referees, maintenance, or whatever. Women should be involved. So I really want to thank those two. So I'm going to try not to talk hardly at all. At the end, I'm going to say a little bit, like maybe 3 or 4 minutes, but I really want to put all the focus on Kat and Katerina and what they're doing and what they have done. Krishna Ali from Pakistan was supposed to be with us. Unfortunately, she had like a last minute, like literally last minute cancellation, just a scheduling conflict. So possibly we're going to have an interview with her later next week. But so Kat and Katerina, I really just want to start with you two, and you're going to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourself. And then I'm going to throw some questions in there. So Katerina, you can go ahead there, my Greek goddess friend. Please let us know who you are.
Kalispera. Hello from Athens. I was lucky enough to participate last year in the first Athens Women's Football Summit, a magnificent initiative of Agisilaos and Marios. And I was hoping to meet all of you, to welcome you and meet all of you in our city, in our country this year. Unfortunately, as you already referred, this wasn't possible. Fortunately, next year we will have the possibility. I'm the Sport for Protection Program Manager of the International Olympic II Center and founder of Hestia, the first refugee and migrant women football team in Greece, actually in all southeastern Europe. I have been working in providing solidarity to refugee and migrant populations for the last 5 years. And from the 20 different, mostly non-formal educational programs that I have designed and managed, 9 of them were football ones. So since I experienced the incredible impact of football in the children and the men's programs, then I decided to start the first women's team. And so we did with the International Olympic II Center back in March 2019.
Nice. Kat?
Well, if Katerina is the Greek goddess, then I guess that makes me the Persian princess.
Emily.
So I'm Pat, and I'm the first dual citizen American-Iranian who started playing on the Iran national team, the senior team. And I was also able to kickstart it. And I was the first dual citizen American-Iranian again to be the head coach of the under-19 Iranian women's national team. I've just moved back to the US about a year, where I got to coach at OL Reign in Seattle. And currently I'm in Houston obtaining my going back to school, but we can get into that later.
Nice. So I've been, I guess, going to coaching expos and seminars for a really long time, and sometimes it goes off track. So for me, like the platform is for you. Like, so if you could tell our listeners, like what is your objective? What do you want people listening this to walk away with, if that makes any sense, Katerina? For you to be here, what do you want to? What's your message that you want it to be?
To give people to share with people our experience on how a ball can change the world, because literally a ball can change the world, and STFC is a great example of that.
Nice. Kat, as well?
Well,
Football as a tool for
Kat, too?
okay. Well, Katerina, are you finished?
Yep.
I think there was a little audio. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, objective, I think it needs to start with, I know what women, especially in the Middle East or in those Central Asian countries, are going through. I understand the pushback, the negligence. I understand all of those issues. I've walked those shoes personally, and it's important to have those tough conversations and dialogue globally with women, who are in, for example, the U.S. or European countries, of how they are fighting, to have their rights come through. So, I'm tired of nothing tangible economically happening. There's no relief, there's no results. And, you have a bunch of girls and women who want to have those results, who want to be able to start competing properly at high levels. And, I want to fight for those women. That's my objective. I want to be able to fight for them so they can have all those resources that are able to play against top teams in the world and make this beautiful game, soccer, more globally impacted. And I'm here for you guys.
Nice. So, Kat, I'm going to throw this question back to you again, and then we'll go over to Katerina. So our topic is changing lives through women's football. So what does that mean to you, changing lives through women's football?
Kat or Katerina?
Yeah.
You have to
Katayoun.
So changing lives through women's soccer. When I was the head coach of the national team, I got to change so many girls' lives without even knowing that I was changing their lives. Whenever these girls were coming from the weirdest, poorest conditions just to be able to make it to training, that's already changing their life for the better. And if I can have that type of relief for them, why not make it on a more global scale, or at least on a regional scale? So to do that means to be there for them, to have good conditions available for them, to have good resources available for them. That's what it means to change these girls' lives for the better, to make sure that you can get the best outcome in the worst conditions.
Katerina, what does it mean to you, changing lives through women's football?
It means so many different things, and not only for the participants, for the players of our team, but for the lives of so many women in general. Our players are mostly from Middle East. They come from totally different cultures, and they have faced so many different difficulties and challenges while trying to arrive to Europe, or even now trying to integrate in the European, in the Greek, in our case, society. So changing lives means for these women, after such challenges and under so difficult circumstances, to feel protected, to empowered, to discover existing or new talents within themselves, to become leaders for others, role models for other women with less opportunities, not only of their own culture, but for women of with less opportunities in general. And the thing is that I started this team to change their lives and to empower them. And what actually happened is that they keep on inspiring me, and they keep on changing me and teaching me every single day something new.
So I wanted to ask you too a question about your youth, meaning between maybe like the ages of 8 to 12. So for myself, I grew up outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in America, and I loved baseball. So my hero was a Philadelphia Phillies baseball player named Manny Trio. Manny was from Venezuela. I didn't know that. But Manny was brown, and his eyes were a little slanted like mine. So I thought he was Asian because I'm a little brown. So that was like, I didn't have any other Asian athletes to look up to growing up. And I thought Manny Trio was Asian. I didn't know he was not Asian. He's from Venezuela. So like for you two being in, between 8 to 12 years old as a girl, were there any female mentors or heroes besides your mother or grandmother outside of your family? Was there anybody else that you looked up to? Katerina?
Yeah, an amazing Greek lady. Her name is she has passed away. Her name is Melina Mercouri. She was a great actor,
Okay.
but much more than that, she became politician, and she was a great activist for human rights in general, for women's human rights, and she was trying to inspire Greeks to keep in very difficult times, to keep the Greeks inspired, empowered, and to share whatever Greece had to share with the entire world. I think she was a great ambassador of Greece, and she inspired. She was a fighter, a real fighter, and she inspired me a lot.
Nice. Kat?
Well, I mean, my situation's a little different because I was blessed with that unique opportunity of being born and raised in the U.S. So, women's soccer here was already taking off. And, I had role models like Michelle Akers and Mia Hamm, and I wanted to be just like them. But in a parallel world in Iran at the same time, there was no role models for girls who wanted to play soccer, let alone just play with the ball. They didn't have access to female role models. They just had, for example, Ali Dai and Ali Karimi. They had the Iranian role model, but not female.
So, traveling around the world and coaching, I've come across a lot of girls that have no role models. So speaking with both of you, you are both huge role models for the people that you work with. I know your messages and how inspiring they are, and literally what you've created out of nothing. So, I really am so excited for your platform and for younger women to really, really look up to you and say, wow, they're trailblazers in Greece, working you, Katerina, with the refugees, Katayoun, with you, what you did with the Iranians and the Iranian national team, and what you want to do. So now I just want to open it up to Katerina first. Tell us a little bit about your organization, Hestia FC. How you created, where you got this vision of, I want to get involved with this group, and what you want to do as well.
As I already referred, first of all, STFC is not an organization, it's a program of the International. And as I referred before, I see the amazing impact of football in children's and men's program. And in the refugee camps, the women are less visible, they participate less in everything. They mostly remain inside the four walls of a container or the four walls of an apartment in the center of the city. So I was like, we can change that. I want to try to change that, and for them to be able to benefit exactly like the children and men did, to have a sense of normality in their lives, in their everyday life, a life that can be stressful, boring, even dangerous, to have something every day to wait for. So we started the team in March 2019 in Athens urban areas. I wanted the program to take place outside of the refugee camps for many reasons, for integration.
We lost you.
Oh.
For them to have the motivation to leave. You lost me.
Yeah, we lost you, Katerina. Can you go back 15 seconds?
Yeah. So we started the team in March 2019 in Athens urban area, and I wanted the program to take place in Athens, in the center of Athens, and not inside the refugee camps for many reasons, for social integration reasons, for them to have the motivation to leave the refugee camps, and so on. So we started back then. In the beginning, it was too difficult to find participants. It was exactly the opposite. I mean, when we started the children and the men programs, I mean, the registration were so many every day, but the women were hesitating, or their parents or husbands were hesitating to allow them to participate. So we faced many difficulties, but slowly they came, one brought the other, and it was amazing. But what really amazed me from the very first week was the that the women of the team you lost me again? Really?
Yeah. It's actually okay because I'm going to ask you a question. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Katerina.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, maybe in the U.S., possibly Australia or something, but I have a lot of experience in the Middle East. If you can share, why wouldn't the husbands want their wives to play football? Just go out and kick the ball around. Why was that such an obstacle for you?
Should I answer or should the cat answer to that? We can both.
At least for you right now, Katerina, go ahead.
We're talking about a totally different culture. I mean, in Iran, especially in Iran, until last year, they weren't able to enter a football stadium. So, I mean, it's the perspective, the role of women in the Middle Eastern societies is totally different. Their choice, what they're allowed to do is so limited. So playing football is out of the question. I have a great during all these years involvement in the refugee context.
We lost you. I'll wait like 5 more seconds, then we'll go over to you, Kat. Maybe there's a bad connection there.
I'm terribly sorry for that. I don't know.
No, it's not your fault, Katerina. You didn't install your internet.
About that. Anyway, so I was saying that during these years, I managed through different collaborations to gain the friendship of amazing people. And one of them is Khalida Popalchai, who was one of the first women who started the Afghanistan women's football team. And her experience, what she has expressed, and how difficult it was for her to start such a team, to even convince in the beginning her father to allow her to play football on the street. At the end of the day, she had to leave her country because she was threatened by terrorists because she started this team. I mean, the role of women, even nowadays, is totally different in these countries, unfortunately. They're supposed
to Katerina, so wives. How did you, sorry to interrupt you, how did you convince the husbands to let their wives play? I'm sad. Her message is so good. Kat, I think we'll go over to you.
Really open to it.
Katerina, yeah, we're stuck again.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay. It's not your fault. No, go ahead and try to finish.
Yeah. We were really trying to explain to them that they can always come to the trainings, first of all, to check what's going on over there. The fact that the assistant football coach of the team is an Afghan man himself was really helpful. So as a man, he could explain to them even more, and they could express any concerns, and we could sit down and discuss with them. And day by day, as the women were returning to their homes, even when they could see the change in their wives' daily life. So this convinced them that they had no reason to hesitate. And actually, when we returned from Copenhagen, where we won the Global Girls World Cup, it was amazing because the husbands came with flowers to congratulate the entire team, and of course the women, their wives.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, Kat, if I Google your name, I can see a lot of videos about you on YouTube and your story, and what you've done is just absolutely amazing. So for anybody that hasn't heard a little bit about you and how you started it, please share with us.
So I moved to Iran when I was 17 years old. Iran was a very foreign country to me. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I just thought it was another country on the other side of the US, and it shouldn't be any different. There should be women's soccer, there should be women's gyms, there should be women's rides. I was brought up in such a closed society where you never knew what's happening on the other side of the world. Lo and behold, in Iran, there was no women's soccer when I entered, and I had to train because when I was potentially coming back to the US, I had to go straight to camp. I found a gym, and in that gym, I was talking to the women and asking them, where can I play soccer? And they would laugh at me. They're like, what are you talking about? Women's soccer does not exist here. But women's indoor soccer or futsal did exist. So I started training with that team. And, there was a huge hype that there's this American girl in Iran who's tackling us, who is, jumping and heading, who's scoring goals from 50 meters out. You have to come see her. So, within a couple of weeks, I was gaining this popularity that, I'm the American girl that, is tackling all these women. And some representatives from the Football Federation came and saw me, and they recruited me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of, the history-making team after the 1979 Islamic Revolution. This is the first team that's going to be established in Iran, and be a part of it. And as a 17-year-old, when someone says, do you want to change history or be a part of history, you don't think twice. You say, hell yes. And I decided to stay in Iran. I stayed there for about 14 years. I was a player and a captain for the national team for 8 years. I had to be a part of the whole ups and downs, of course. We were disqualified in 2011 for wearing the hijab during a FIFA pre-Olympic qualification match, the second one. So I had to fight for that. And even if I'm not a firm believer of wearing the hijab, I think it's important to fight for women who will have to wear it, like Iran, and for the women who do want to wear it globally, to be their voice so they can play. The more women players, the better it is for women's soccer globally. And eventually, I think you were at one of my courses, Johnny, where I was getting my A license for coaching for under the Asian Football Confederation and FIFA. And I was the first woman in Iran to get the A license, and I immediately became the head coach of the under-19 national team. No one believed me. No one thought, even for a second, that I would be able to, with, of course, my assistant coaches, that we would be able to unveil the potential talent in Iran. You knew you would have future superstars that could, tackle Korean players or score against, Russia or Belarus. No one ever thought that would happen for Iran national team. And I'm so happy to be a part of that movement, and cannot stop. We started it, we touched the surface of the potential, but it cannot stop. And the reason why I'm in the US now is I want to be able to, progress. I don't want to just stop as being the head coach of the national team of Iran. I want to now take it one step further. And this is why I'm doing my master's in global affairs, to see how I can connect all my experiences internationally, all my experiences with women internationally, and how to help them on a platform that I'm creating, which is to be their voice, to help them, to be their ally, not to be a hurdle for them that they can't jump over.
Nice, Kat. So we're gonna get back to that because I know you already have a master's. You're getting another master's. I know education is important in your family. So that's incredible to be able to do football and to have the education to fall back on as well, because we definitely need more women leaders in the executive level and things like that. So Katerina, your organization, your football club that you have there, let's say that I was wealthy. I wish I was, and I gave you $100,000 US or 100,000 euros. What would you do with that money?
First of all, I would be relieved, because this would mean that the program would be sustainable for quite a while. Because right now the team is self-funded only by your organization. Of course, this is not sustainable. Proper clothing and shoes, football shoes for the players. More opportunities for social integration with the Greek society. And by this, I mean that we could cover transportation and accommodation that we cannot cover right now. There were many opportunities that other football clubs or NGOs or universities invited us in different towns, different cities of Greece for our players, because we want not only us to raise our voices for them, but we actually train them for them to be impact of Hestia. So in many cases, we're invited for friendly matches or conferences or presentations, and we weren't able to travel because of the lack of this. I am back, or I'm freezing?
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Keep talking. Yeah, keep going, Katerina.
Then, for sure, we would cover we will be able to hire Arabic assistant football coach and French one. Right now, volunteers or myself with my poor French, I'm trying to translate to the French speakers, the African ladies that we have in the team. And so many more things that we could arrange we want to organize events for children, sportive events in collaboration with different entities, and unfortunately we cannot. But imagine that even to proper shoes and proper clothing is a problem for us.
Yeah, so for me, when we spoke on the phone, like, I really wanted to highlight what you're doing and kind of like reach out to the audience out there about collaboration. So it's not about, hey, I need to send her money. It's more about getting involved and, just saying like, what can I do to help this type of organization? So one of the things that I said to Marios when he asked me to be the moderator, I said, all right, I'm not going to swear. I'll try really hard not to swear. Not that I'm angry, but I'm extremely passionate. And then I'll try really hard not to get political. But I don't know, like, I got to get real. Like, this is real. Like, sometimes it's difficult not to get political. And when I think about some countries in Europe, they don't want refugees coming to their country. It's like, you stay there. We don't want you. So how does that affect your team and the people? Like, do you have players on your team that are playing and then suddenly they get asylum status to go to the UK or to go to Germany or Norway, or are people getting sent back to their countries? Like, what's happening there?
Until now, fortunately, the people have not been sent back to their countries. Until now. I am not sure for how long this is going to continue. The refugees and the asylum seekers in Greece have been waiting for years and years for a decision about their asylum. The relocation programs and family reunification programs finished 2 years ago. So
We lost you, Katerina.
Oh, so juicy as well. So I need that.
They're trying to. I am back. So many times they try and they manage to leave from Greece illegally.
Yeah.
And other times, as soon as they receive their Greek asylum and their Greek travel documents, they manage to travel to other EU countries, and they're starting the asylum application and the entire procedure again. Not because they don't want to stay in Greece, especially first of all, Greece was never their target, their dream, their goal. Other countries, wealthier countries were. But when they have stayed here and for a long time, they got to get used to the Greek culture, which is much more similar to their culture compared to other Central or now Northern European countries. They're feeling like a second home here. They actually don't want to leave, but they're living for financial reasons. Of course, the unemployment that we have in Greece and the crisis that we still have in Greece, they are totally aware of that, so that's why they're trying to leave. But
Right.
yes, as I said, until now, fortunately, they're not forced to, they're not getting deported back to their countries.
Right. One of the things that I thought while hearing you speak is if through this platform, if you had any women that moved into the EU somewhere, you could reach out to somebody in Italy or Germany or Norway and say, hey, I have a player going there to this town. They're going to be in Oslo. Is there a women's team there that she could play on so she doesn't lose that type of fitness and exercise? So I think, again, like maybe that is something that the Athens Women's Football Summit platform can do for your players and stuff. So, Kat, we've spoken. I think you're absolutely amazing. You have this vision of like maybe 25 to 40 different ideas of what you want to do and how you want to make change and make the women's game better. So if you can share, like, again, you're getting a master's in global diplomacy or sports diplomacy, like what you want to do with that, like what's your envision, how you can solve problems, whether conflict resolution or however you're going to address the issue of raising the women's game.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to how I initially got the women's game in Iran up and going. People don't want to, or the men or the government don't want to feel like they are just giving money to throw it away for women's soccer. They want to understand that this is an investment for the future. So my entrepreneurial mind comes out of this, and I'm like, okay, if we're going to be getting this type of budget, how are we going to reinvest it? So it's honestly funds that will be growing to build like different academies, to get girls together for camps, to be able to travel internationally. So I'm putting my entrepreneurial business skills, I'm putting my diplomacy skills that I'm gaining right now together to create a business for the women within those countries. So they don't have to keep asking for handouts. They don't have to keep, relying on governments or on organizations to give them money. For them to be self-reliant and responsible for the objectives of the finances, and how to keep reinvesting into themselves. I think that's a very important structure that has not been implemented yet, because women or coaches like myself, I just was relying on money from my federation or from FIFA. But we need to learn how to, rely on ourselves to get those funds, to rely on ourselves to create a business. So it's always money's always coming through the pipeline. As far as conflict resolution, Iran, although they were very helpful, although the federation and the decision makers were they were my ally, not my enemy. But it took a long time. It took 15 years of negotiating with them, and I lost so much time to do that. Although I did get somewhere, it just took too much time. We shouldn't be wasting, all these hours on meetings to convince these people who are decision makers why should women be playing soccer. It's economically viable. Of course, women have to get involved in sports. You're going to help her be on her own 2 feet. You're going to be helping her to, defend herself if anything happens, God forbid, to her in the streets. You're going to be giving her a voice that, she wants to be involved in this global game. So the conflict resolution side will come hand in hand to this. And I think my objective as a sports diplomat is to bring the business, to bring the negotiation with the decision makers together to make women's soccer a self-reliant money-making machine, so women don't have to always wait for that handout.
So how do you think you will use the Athens Women's Football Summit platform then to do some of these things? Like, have you been able to watch some of the other webinars and think like, wow, like I really need to get in touch with that person, or I went through an A course with this coach, I really need to get in touch with her?
There's so many familiar faces. Majority of the women, if I have not met them, I have read about them, and they're all amazing. I have after the summit, I'm going to be getting in touch with all of them to understand more of their problems, and how were they able to find solutions, and if they haven't, how we can brainstorm ideas to get to those solutions. This summit is creating a platform of dialogue to have those uncomfortable situations. Women, we tend to not want to negotiate, the things that we need. We prefer to, go through all of these battles rather than asking for help. And, this summit is creating that safe space for women to have that communication line with everybody who's watching, with the investors, with the people who are putting it together. That we need to have these uncomfortable conversations to find a solution. How can we make soccer more economically viable and more accessible to women all over, not just in Greece or in the West, but in Central Asia, in the Middle East, where women, it's become now popular to play soccer. But how can we make this? How can we reach our long-term goals without blocking any access to for example, to the funds or to the new policies that are being made? We need to make sure that those policies are for women forever, not just for the next 10 years.
Nice. Katerina, so Hestia FC, how many women do you have on the team right now, currently?
Approximately 23.
Okay. And then you recruit you're in Lesbos, right? So are you recruiting in the refugee camp?
We are in Athens, and we're recruiting from a different accommodation schemes. They can, some of them live in refugee camps, others in specific accommodation schemes from women supporting refugee women, others in apartments with their families.
So are you also doing some type of...
A few of them are still homeless.
It's fortunate. So are you also have a vision of also doing like coaching courses for them as well? Some of the, older women that at some point maybe they can't play as much, and maybe get like a job, if that makes any sense?
Of course, we tend to do that, of course.
So then how do you want to
give them more opportunities, especially employability opportunities?
Right. So how do you want to develop your program? You were saying that you guys won the Double World Cup, correct?
We won
and then how do you want to build on this?
How we're going to build this? First of all, challenges to do, and sometimes you have to schedule and to adjust and to reschedule, because the biggest problem, the biggest challenge is that because Greece is the entering point, the entry country on their journey to Europe, the synthesis of the team changes continuously. So even if you want to develop a specific program, even a coaching one, you cannot be sure that in 1 or 2 or 3 months from now that you will going to have the same players, and especially the ones who have expressed that they're interested in such a thing. So this is still a question mark.
Right. So how many countries are represented on your team?
How many coaches?
How many countries? How many countries are represented? Like Afghanistan?
14. Approximately 14.
14.
Yeah, Afghanistan, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Cameroon, Congo, Egypt, and so on and so on. Yeah, Sierra Leone. Yeah, about 14 countries.
That's absolutely wonderful, because of course they have different religions, and for myself, I totally believe that through sport, we could possibly have dialogue. Right? It's about having communication or having peace, as opposed to you're a different religion from me. I hate you. Let's fight. So it's really nice to hear different religions, whether it's Sunni and Shia or Christian, Catholic, Hindu, whatever. They're all coming together on your team, and there's a camaraderie in your playing. Correct?
In the beginning, I referred that I was amazed of how easily from week one, there was this bonding between the players of the team. And this was totally different from the case of children or men. In the case of the men's or children's program, in the beginning, we had huge challenges, huge fights between Afghans and Syrians, between Middle Easterns and African people, and so on and so on. In the case of women, since day one, there were no challenges, regardless their color, their religion, their nationality, whatever. And I was really surprised by that. It's so different. Even in the case of children, we had fights. In the women's case, no. And
that's
it's amazing.
That's great. So Kat, you're going to finish your master's when? When will you finish your second master's?
In 2022, but that's not going to, it's not a it's not a stopping point where, I'll be disappearing for 2 years. It's just giving me more tools. And with each week going by, I feel a lot, I understand about the global policies a lot more. I understand about like the business of soccer a lot more. And I want to implement all of the things that I'm learning into the platform that's going to be created, and also into the objectives that need to be done for women's soccer to reach that threshold and to flourish eventually.
All right, let me ask you this question, Kat. So, like, I'm really good looking, right? So I'm this genie, right? I'm a genie. I was in a bottle. I came out, and I give you one wish, Kat. You can have any job or whatever, yeah, like any job in the world. What position would you take?
One wish, and you
One
were my
wish.
Okay.
Yeah, one wish. You have one wish, but it's you can't ask for money, and you can't ask for peace for the world. I want a job. Like, I want a job because you have all this knowledge. You have 2 masters. You have national team experience playing and coaching, right? You have all these good things. Like, what job would you want that you think you could do the most work?
Yeah, I'm not taking. I'm not discrediting anybody who's already in that position, but
Sure, no, of course.
I envision myself of being the president at FIFA, because I
really
have
nice.
It's not just the European experience, but I have the Western from the Americas experience, and I've been based in the Middle East for 15 years with travel experience extensively across Asia and Africa. So I know what those women are going through. I know that the men who have been allies of women, what problems they are facing. And if someone that could bring all of that experience under one umbrella, it would have to be under FIFA, since it is the it is the soccer, it is the soccer representation of the world. And I would love to be able to put all that experience and my business background and engineering background even under one umbrella. It would be for FIFA.
Love it. Go big or go home, right?
Exactly.
What's up? I love it. That's a great answer. So, Katerina, like, your program, we talked about collaborations, and if I gave you 100,000 euros, what you would do with it. So through this webinar, through this platform, if somebody wanted to reach out to you and say, hey, I want to help your organization. I have 500 soccer balls, or I have new soccer boots, right? Or whatever. Like, how would they contact you? How would they get involved?
They could contact through our website, first of all, the International Olympic Youth Center website, or the social media of STFC. STFC has its own profiles on Facebook and Instagram. This would be the easiest way.
What is the most pressing need you have?
Clothing and shoes.
Really? Okay.
And I'm saying this because it's the easiest thing, of course, to be able to hire more people, especially because they are not only translators, they're also cultural mediators. It's really important. But I'm referring firstly the clothing and shoes, because it's something that someone donate even in kind, not only has to to give money. But yeah, to hire more people or to be able to keep the people that we already have is really important for us.
Right, nice. So, Kat, I want to go back to something I don't know if you want to talk about. It's a little political, but I'm interested in, because the other webinars that I watched, it really seems to be like in like modern world, like the Western world, and they're talking about inequality and things like that. But the countries that I've traveled to and coached at, Katerina's dealing with refugees where you've been, maybe the challenges are so much different. So like coaching in Iran, being in Iran with UN sanctions, how did you have to go about that, getting uniforms, getting shoes, getting balls? If somebody wanted to if I wanted to give you money to help the Iranian national team, I couldn't. Like, I literally couldn't.
Yeah, you couldn't. You really couldn't.
I know, I couldn't. So I want to talk about like how you overcame those challenges.
Okay. Well, whenever you have no access to absolutely anything, and it's not just you, it's the entire government, it's the federation, you don't have access to medicine from overseas, you don't have access to dollars to buy anything because the conversion rates, because everything that is in Iran, it's like Nike and Adidas, and all of a sudden there's inflation rate. So a pair of shoes, soccer shoes in Iran from Iranian, it's like as if you're spending literally $4,000. That's how expensive it is now. So with all those sanctions, you don't have access to the right equipment, the right material, but will that stop you from going out and training? Will that stop you from progressing in what you have to do to be able to show the world that no matter what hurdles you're going to be putting in front of me, I have to jump them in the worst conditions. If you just have to do it for your own pride. When I was the coach, it was very difficult because we had access to one training uniform and one team uniform. We had to return it because the girls couldn't take it back to train. So they didn't have the access to professional clothes whenever they would go back home and train. Their shoes had holes in it. So we have to figure out another option. I was giving I gave all my, stuff possible to them. So even if I would, as an American, would travel overseas to buy shoes, it's impossible because for example, Nike at the World Cup, instead of them being like, oh, we're here for the better good, we're here, there's no religion, politics involved with soccer, they were actually denying the Iranian national team from wearing Nike shoes. And now they're trying to implement that with anybody who wears Nike shoes is illegal. So what are we left with? We're left with shoes that, if you wear them once, the holes are going to appear in them. Like nobody is. Instead of supporting athletes, they're going against athletes in Iran. And that's taking away from time and energy that they could be spending on training, that they could be, going overseas and focusing purely on winning medals. They have to focus, oh no, I can't wear my Nike shoes anymore because it's going to cause problems. And, it's tough. It's very, very tough. It shouldn't be like that. I don't think any country in the world is dealing with issues like that, but that's another objective that we have to think about. And how do we steer in a way where it's going to be a win-win for everybody, but it's going to be more tough as us as coaches and athletes. For example, one day I went on Twitter, I asked for support of the Iranian American community to a GoFundMe page. They were so helpful. They started sending, but I couldn't do anything because of sanctions. They were going to be buying shoes and clothes and soccer shoes as well, not just running shoes, but everything possible, even the Nike hijab. I couldn't do anything with it, so I had to return all the funds back. So people are ready to help, people are ready to support, but with these sanctions on athletes, and especially on female athletes, now that we have the clearance from the government to play, we don't have access to the normal goods that athletes have to wear.
Right. So we're almost done. I'm going to take about 4 minutes to talk a little bit about my story, and then I'm going to let you guys close with what you would like to share at the end. So it might sound a little ridiculous, but I was actually found in a trash can in Seoul, South Korea as a baby. Somebody found me and then took me to the police station. Then I went to an orphanage, and then I was adopted by an American family outside of Philadelphia. So when I talk about, I guess, empowering women and empowering females through sport, it's really powerful to me, because obviously my birth father did absolutely nothing to support my birth mother, whoever they are. And it's definitely a struggle in the countries that I have been to. So I've coached in Papua New Guinea, I've coached in Ethiopia, I've coached in Kuwait, I've coached in Myanmar. I'm coaching refugees. I'm coaching North Korean refugees in South Korea. I was coaching Bedouin girls out in the desert in Kuwait, Somalian refugees in Ethiopia, the Rohingya refugees in Myanmar. Like I've been all over the world coaching, and every time you coach girls, again, because of their parents, mostly their fathers, they're not allowed to play. But it's so important for girls to play sport. It is so important. Whether they don't have to play football, in my opinion, they just need to play sport. And the statistics are crazy about girls that play sport. They have a lower chance of depression, right? Mental health is really big right now with COVID-19 and just being inside, right? Mental health, suicide is less. They have a higher bone mass, so osteoporosis is much lower if you play sports. Less chance of breast cancer. Girls that play sport, they do better in school. And for me, the biggest thing is just to have that self-image. They have a self-image. They learn teamwork. They're with somebody. So when you think about global sexual assault, women that play sport, the percentages are higher that they are going to report the sexual assault because they have this confidence through the sport. And for me, through football, when we went to Ethiopia with the U.S. State Department Sports Envoy Program, it was about having a voice when we were reaching out to the girls there that were getting molested and sexually abused by the village and things like that. It's horrendous, the conditions. But, you know, we try to empower and try to put in a program there to make them feel safe. It's a big reason why girls stop playing football, is because they lose interest. It's not fun. The fields are bad. They're not allowed to use fields. Like I know in Greece, I was listening earlier how the men get to use the nice fields, the girls get to use these awful fields, or it's really, really late at night, or there's not a safe space. So for me, I'm if you're watching this live or if you're gonna watch this later, I am calling out every single man out there to step up. Like, there are bad men everywhere. So I can't do anything about them because they're ridiculous. But what I want is I want the good men to be better. This is what needs to be done. We all have mothers. We all have daughters or sisters. There's all women, strong women in our lives. And as men, if we're not coming together and say, okay, hey, we need to sort this out. Like, these are people we care about. Then, like, I don't know. It's ridiculously frustrating. And when I look at Armenia and Azerbaijan, when I look at North and South Korea, when I look at what's going on in different parts of the world with violence, when there's violence, there's rape. Anytime there's violence or war, it always affects children, like myself, who will be abandoned, or women who are not doing anything and they're going to get sexually assaulted. It's ridiculous. I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of it. So the good men out there, I know you're out there. I know you're out there. Let's be better. Let's be better. I'm calling you all out. Let's be better. I'm getting excited over here. I'm going to start swearing soon. But I told Marios I wasn't going to swear. So that's it from me, Coach Johnny. Katerina, you end up, what would you like to finish with?
Actually, the same way I finished last year in the Athens Women's Football Summit, but here in Athens, and it's connected exactly with what you expressed. Women's football needs the greatest supporters, and the most needed supporters of women's football are men like you, like Agisilaos, like Marios. And I'm really thankful that you are next to us, next to such a movement in general, to such initiatives. And I hope that more will follow your example. So I was surprised with what you expressed, because it was exactly what I had in mind. And thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you, Katerina. Kat, closing remark?
Let's figure out how to make women's soccer more economically viable. We have to change these policies. I am sick and tired of waiting for handouts from the federation, or waiting for that budget that FIFA is allocating to the federation, and we only receive 0.05%. And we need to train women or teach women, and have them partnered with strong businessmen and women to how to reinvest this money, how to grow this money, so we don't have to always be depending on our federations or on FIFA. I think instead of spending all this money on grand summits to invite the member associations from all over the world and spending millions to get that million, and find people within the country or women in the country to create this foundation and create this investment fund for women, so we don't have to just sit and wait for handouts. Johnny, your story it always captures me emotionally, because I can never understand why parents would do that. And the same thing translates. I can never understand why parents of these girls, if they don't allow them to play soccer, or if they want to out of culturally they want to marry them off at a very young age. I don't understand it. But I need men and women. It doesn't matter what what you are, but we need to find more allies to help women's soccer, but not as a handout, not because we need to do it. We need to create a strong business threshold for this. We need to make sure that this is self-sustainable, and I wish all of us the best.
So Katerina, Kat, you're both like definitely heroes of mine now, role models for the younger people in the world. Katerina, after COVID's over, I'm coming to Greece and coaching with you. I'm going to do a program there.
I'm coming as well, Katerina.
We'll both go there. And Kat, I will see you somewhere, and we're going to coach together as well. I am so excited. So excited. So anyway, everybody, thanks for taking the time to watch us. It's been wonderful listening to you, awesome women, and you guys, everybody, please be safe, wear a mask, please. Let's stop the spread so we can get out and start coaching again.
True.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.